Hello, everyone. Looks like we're frozen in time. Hello, everyone. It's Phil Jones, and joining me is Cam Valentine and AJ Mody. And today we're going to be talking about HEOS. A few like last year, or was it 2 years ago, AJ, that we talked about the new was that U32?
That's right.
Okay, so HEOS continues to evolve every single year, and today we're going to be talking about new advancements in HEOS and also answering your questions. And also joining us is actually Frederick from Hong Kong. So Frederick, what time is it there?
Hi, Phil. It's 9 a.m. in the morning, but we're Friday in APAC, so we're slightly closer to the weekend than you guys are.
Nah.
Okay, so I asked Frederick and AJ to come to assist with answering your questions. Today we're going to be talking about HEOS. Okay, I know that there may be some other questions about other things like Durac and active room treatment and all that type of stuff, but today, people, we're talking about HEOS. Okay, so to go and we will get to those other topics in the future. So so AJ, before we get started, why don't you talk about what is your role when it comes to HEOS?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely, Phil. Thanks for having me on. So my role here is I'm a designer. I'm primarily working on the HEOS app. So what that means is I work with the software developers, the hardware developers to launch HEOS features into the app, make sure all our new products are working well in there. So yeah, many of the features we're probably going to be talking about today had some role in helping create and push out into the world. So
Exactly. And we just introduced another version of HEOS.
that's right. That's right. Hot off the heels. It was not an April Fool's joke. It was U36 just a few days ago. So
Exactly. It's funny. So Cam, who does a lot of stuff around, he is our resident expert when it comes to running this building. How many zones do you think we have in this building?
Oh wow, put me on the spot here. Okay. Over 30. I lost count after that.
So yeah, so the big thing that the nice thing about it is we have a pretty extensive HEOS system in this building,
Let me check
and
my
which
HEOS app.
allows us to actually test things out. So if something's going to get broken, Cam's probably going to find it first, and he can go down to AJ's desk and let them know. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions, as always, you can put them into the chat in the live stream, and we will make sure that we answer those questions. Frederick will be monitoring those questions along the way, and then we will ask him if there's any questions that we can continue going through and answering. So the first thing is we want to talk about some of the newer capabilities that have been added since the last time we talked, and then we'll go through and answer your questions and work through any technical issues you may have. So first, let's talk a little bit about some of the newer versions. So the first thing, if you switch over, is the first updates we did what last year was U34,
that's right.
right? Now a lot of times you only see like three different changes to the appearance of the app, but this was the 34th version, right?
That's right. So you just when we say you, it means just an update. So the 34th update, you can major release of a HEOS app. So yeah, and features are put in there. So features you discover in the app, whether that's like a new music service, or in this case, we're talking about Title Connect and Deezer Hi-Fi, some of the things that were launched in U34. So yeah, that was last summer basically. Yeah, and in U34, I mean, Title Connect has been something people have been asking for a long time. So we knew about it. It was definitely on the backlog, but you can imagine that there's a lot of features and a lot of people wanting different things and stuff like that. But Title Connect was something people have been asking for.
Okay, so I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Yeah, sure.
Why does it take so long to add extra or new services, because we get asked that. Cam gets asked that all the time.
yeah.
Why can't I get this service and why can't I get this service? What takes so long to add this service? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would love to add every service. First and foremost, I mean, it would be great if every service you could go into the HEOS app and just access it, right? But that's not the case, and sometimes it breaks down into two buckets. Really, it's services that are we can do, and it's just in a long, there's a bunch of million things to do, and we have to prioritize that. So the product team kind of is in charge of that and managing that. And then the second bucket is these, there's certain things that other services won't let us do. So we would love to put, things in the app, but they just won't let us do it.
Yeah. So for example, we get asked a lot about Apple.
Yeah.
We would love to have like completely integrated Apple, right? But first thing we have to do is get Apple to say yes, right? So so we're still working on that. So title was a big one, and we're going to continue to add additional services, but it's all based on engineering resources and things like that.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Okay, so U34 was the first one, right? And we added, so in addition to title, what were some of the other things that we added in U34?
Oh yeah, so we had Title Connect. Title Connect is just basically if you want to stay in your title app and connect to your HEOS built-in speakers, you can stay in the title app and just play from there, and that's great. Deezer Hi-Fi was the other one. So again, Deezer has a lot of high quality tracks, so I think it goes up to FLAC. Lossless FLAC it looks like, and so you can basically HEOS supports that within its native app. So if you sync your Deezer account to your HEOS account, you can start playing that content through your HEOS speakers.
Okay.
HEOS built-in.
Yeah. So basically, Title Connect, you can either utilize Title through our app, or go directly to the Title app and do it. So let me ask you, why would you want to use our app instead of the Title Connect app?
Yeah, that's a great question, Phil, and one that comes up a lot. I think for me, sometimes it's convenience. So if I'm doing things, I need to control multiple speakers at one time or zones, I'll be in the HEOS app and I want to play from this speaker, this service on this speaker, and this other service on that. So the other part of that is playing multiple services, right, in one place. So your HEOS app can house Tidal. It can also house Deezer if you subscribe to both. So you can manage that, all in one app, right? That's one reason you do it. So zone control and the fact that you can browse multiple.
Yeah, the universal
services.
search is a big one. So if you have more than one app in like me, I have, how many apps do we have in this building?
A bunch.
A lot.
A bunch.
A lot.
'Cause you just pick up your phone, pick your artist or pick your song, and it's just going to search all of your services.
Yeah, exactly. So
So it just makes it easier, and then you can pick your song, and like AJ was saying, then you could just send it out to your whatever zone you wanted to go to.
we were just doing a
Makes it
demo
lot
today.
easier.
We were just doing a demo today for a client that was looking at a pair of Bowers 801 D4s versus 801 signatures. And we do all of our demos, even on the high-end systems, using the HEOS app. But of course, Eric McBride, who's our resident Bowers expert, has the most esoteric recordings, and the quickest way to find is to type in a universal search, and sometimes it's on Spotify, sometimes it's on Amazon Music, sometimes it's on Tidal, and having that universal search. So that's a big one. Now, moving on from that, we went into 34.1.
Yeah.
And so what did that add?
Yeah. So the dot just means it's not big enough to be its own release, so we just tack it onto the U release. But that brought a lot of people were also waiting for Roon Ready. So, right, the Roon's a platform that many people use, and having your speakers qualified, I guess, or certified to get into Roon takes some time, and so that was finally something we were ready to launch in U34.1. So that was a little bit after late summer.
So if you look at it, when 34 came out, it started off with like a few pieces. So it was like the Denon Home and a few pieces, right?
Mhm.
Why can't you just do all of these products at one time?
Ooh. So you're saying like
I want them all. How come I have to do? Why is it two
All at once.
and then two and then three more and then two? Why can't you just do all of the Marantz HEOS enabled products and stuff like that?
It's to keep it interesting, Phil. So no, it's a lot of work. You want to do it right, and Roon is very strict and stringent. So it takes a lot of time and energy to basically validate. Hey, working with Roon and these partners to get in both. Say our product is Roon ready, and on our side we have to test.
Yeah.
certain
So
things.
so basically, the
takes a
best
long
way to
time.
think of it is each product is tested individually. So if you're a small company, you have 3 products. Of course, your entire lineup can be quickly Roon ready because you have 3 products, right?
Oh, yeah.
But if you look at the huge amount of products that we have that are HEOS compatible under Denon and Marantz, you have AVRs, you have hi-fi pieces, you have hi-fi sources, integrated amps, wireless speakers. There's a huge amount. Each piece, soundbars, each piece has to be tested one at a time. So the order that we're kind of taking is by we're just looking at it and we're working our way through. So we just added Roon Ready, which is above Roon Tested. So you have all the benefits of Roon, and we're continuing to add that. Another nice thing about Roon Ready is Roon is kind of product agnostic. So if you want to mix a little bit of AirPlay this with a little bit of HEOS that, with a little bit of fill in somebody else's capabilities, you can control it all from one kind of computer-based application. Now you have to pay for that because that application is not free. But if you're someone that wants the advantages of Roon, we have that capability as well, right?
That's absolutely right. And that is one of the benefits of Roon. And it does take time, like you said. We had over 60 of those products. It takes a while to get some of them in there. So, yeah. But among those that were Roon certified, I mean, we have the Marantz Model M1, right? The Denon Home amp. So this one right here, right? Great little device right there, and
What is
the
in front of me here?
SACD30N. So
Oh, yeah.
That's called a Marantz
We
cam.
do have a Marantz one in front of me.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is in front of me?
Okay. So part of it is adding services, adding capabilities. So did U30. We didn't even talk about U33 because there was a U33 as well. But we did U34, U34.1. Then we go to U35, right? So what's in U35?
Oh yeah. U35 had not just more Roon ready devices that we're certified and supporting that now. So every release, or not every release, but you can expect some Roon ready devices to be added to that list. But product, basically Roon group presets is what the feature's called. So if you open your HEOS app and you're like, hey, I want to group all my rooms together really quickly, touch of a button, you can do that through this feature now. And it's really, really great. I'd love to go over some ways of how I use it and some nice ways that maybe people aren't using it or haven't experienced it yet. So
okay, so let's talk a little bit about group preset because normally when HEOS came out, and like Cam has the whole downstairs kind of group together, right? But sometimes but each time I have to manually group them, and if I want a different combination in the space, I got to ungroup everything and manually group it. So what you could do is all downstairs,
that's
right? And then group all those, and then you can save it as its own preset, and then you could do
just something like, hey, just this speaker, I want just kitchen. Say for example, I have my kitchen speaker right there, and it's all grouped together, so they're all sitting in one zone now and all playing the same music. And I have a group preset that says just kitchen, and it's just pulling that kitchen out of that group now. And now you just have it selected, so you can go play music to it easier. And that's great. I mean, if you have a group of 16 in our office, right? We have many speakers. You say, I just want this
kitchen.
one. And
so you can do
boom.
just the kitchen,
Yeah.
You could do just downstairs.
Just downstairs.
You could do just outside.
That's
Or
right.
you can do the entire house. So that would be examples of presets. So instead of you pinching and unpinching and dragging stuff around, you
Yeah.
would just do it once, tell the app where you would do it,
Yep.
and then you would do it. Can you kind of show, you don't have to go all the way through, but can you
Yeah.
kind of show how you would actually do that?
Yeah, let's see if we
You
can.
could probably do it from there, or you can do it from your,
Oh yeah.
just go up.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Go there. And then if you go to, now, there you go.
Okay. So I'll try not to
home.
lean away too much from the
It's
mic,
okay,
but
it's
we
okay.
can
You
see.
Yeah, you can just turn that towards you. You got
We
your
can
own mic, you got your
Cool.
own camera.
Perfect. So here we are in the HEOS app. We've got our home, our rooms, which no sane person would have this many rooms, but you can see.
So when we say a lot of zones, we mean a lot of zones.
Yeah, there's a lot of zones in here, and because of that, it might there might be some differences you'd see, but
That's just some of the zones I have more that are hidden
yeah,
under different.
more
We have
hidden.
another system.
Yeah, another system, more zones.
So in my house, you know, and where I live, there's maybe 3 or 4 zones maximum. But how you do this is basically you can, if you're not seeing this, you can tap on these 3 dots up in the upper right hand corner, and you can see hide group presets. So if you don't want to see that feature and you're not interested in it, you can, you know, just hide it. But in this case, we're going to show it. So here it's blank. You might see an all rooms tab that you can tap and it'll group all rooms. But I'm going to go ahead and add a preset here, and we'll see if we can do that.
Yeah,
So,
a better way, our building is a business building, so
Yeah.
sometimes that could be a little.
it's not typical. So I'm going to go hit edit, and we can get new group preset. So this plus button at the top here, and we can tap that. And now we see the list of all the zones in our basically network that are being discovered here. So I'm going to create one. Let's see if I can see. Let's see. What do we want to do?
Actually, so many we're not even going to do
Yeah.
it. But basically, what you would do is you would just check 2 or 3 of those what you would want, and
Totally.
then you would save that and label it what you want it to be.
Totally. So I could
those are
select
busy.
these
Yep.
Denon homes right here. I'd say, you know, I could select from like a preset list or type. I'm not going to type. I'll just say family room. Let's see if that goes. And there we've got family room now. So now when I close this screen, I can tap these triple dots and I'll see like edit. Basically, I can edit or remove that. But now when I go back to the rooms, and you'll see family
You
room.
see family room up there. Okay.
Right? So if I tap that, what it will do is group those 2 speakers I selected, and voila, here we have them selected. It automatically selects it, so we can go play music to that, whether it's Tidal Connect or through the HEOS app, whatever. It'll show up on AirPlay as family room, so you can play to that group easily. And if now we see it selected, and if I tap that again, it will ungroup and remove those zones from the group. So tap it again, and it'll just, boom, 250 and 350 are now separate zones.
Okay,
again.
so you could have several of these presets above the top. So it just makes it
Absolutely.
easier than you having to drag it back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's really cool. Oh, by the way, if you're out there and you have any questions, make sure you put them into the chat so we can make sure that we answer those along the way. I think Frederick is actually monitoring those. So let's go back to the services that we were talking about. So you talked about U34 point 1
Yes.
had group preset. Was there anything else that was part of that combination of things?
Let's see. Group preset was definitely a big one. One more thing I want to mention about group presets that's great for is we talked about, we're in the office right now. We all go home and we have, you know, HEOS built-in stuff on our home. So it supports different networks basically. So the presets I set up here will just be local to here. The presets I set up at home are going to be local to the whatever devices I have on my network, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of a nice way of distinguishing, like, I know whatever presets show up here, they're going to be just reliant to whatever zone.
Oh,
I
okay.
have
I
here.
didn't even think about that
Yeah.
because Cam and I both have pretty elaborate HEOS systems at home.
Right.
Right.
And I didn't even think about that because when I come into the room, into the building, what I see is what's been grouped here.
That's right.
But when I go home, I see what's been grouped there, and I don't have to. I'm not confused. I know whatever I see on my screen is what I can actually do.
That's right.
All
So office or vacation home scenarios or something like that, you could just walk in there and know that, okay, whatever I group here, it's going to be local to the devices here.
Okay.
So yeah, what else did we get in U35? I mean, again, supporting Roon Ready and group presets, which was a big one for us.
Yes.
Uh,
So those are some big ones. So a lot of times, do we have any questions, Frederick, about those types of things, or do you have anything that you would like to answer? Oh, by the way, we have another expert. He's kind of hiding in the background, Mike, and he'll chime in if he has any questions. But Frederick, do you have any? Is there any questions you have, or
Not,
is there any questions outside? I'm shocked if there isn't.
there's nothing in the chat so far, but I've got a couple up my sleeve here. Like you mentioned about the number of zones. So what's the maximum amount of HEOS devices that we can connect on one single network? I think we need to take it down into number of devices in groups and zones and stuff like that,
I
right?
think it's 32 at this point,
Actually, it may be
and it
high-
might be.
It's higher.
There's plans to go up.
It's actually
it's
higher than that.
64.
It's 64.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so believe it or not, it used to be 32.
Used to be.
And then
Thank you.
we had we had someone who wanted literally 32 zones in their house.
Oh,
And
yeah.
to ensure
That's right.
that it actually was going to work effectively, they cranked it up
Yeah.
to 64 to ensure that if they could do 64, it could do 32. And that's why if you go back and you look, and later as he goes through and pans through our thing, there is at least 24 or
Yeah.
more zones in this particular building. That the amount of zones that are in here are absolutely ridiculous. So
Connect.
so there are other services coming, and I'm sure that I've heard many of requests on our YouTube channel about, for example, it seems like YouTube Music is not the one everybody's asking for. So we and I know that you guys are working through these requests one thing at a time. But we know what happens with streaming companies who do really radical changes all at once. You could break things, right? And we have millions of devices out there, so we have to be very cautious as we make these updates to ensure that we don't cause major issues for millions of devices on the market.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Phil. It's like there's a lot that goes into these launches, so yeah, you want to make sure you do as much as you can, and even then, sometimes it still happens.
But the goal is if you
Yeah.
it's better to be, when it comes to this app, evolutionary
Yeah,
than revolutionary, because revolutionary it could cause a lot more problems than working your way gradually and making it better and better. Hence, instead of this being version 1, version 2, version 3, it's smaller steps to make sure that those who are already comfortable with the application will continue to have a better experience. Now, moving on from that, there's people always say, hey, there's other ways or other things I would like with the app when it comes to performance and functionality. So I think the new one, U36, has a lot to do with improved usability and functionality, correct?
that's right. U36 and there will be a U36.1. I mean, soon, sometime soon. Stuff I can't
Might
talk
be
about.
one.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Not if, but when, I think at this point. But yeah, so there's a lot of, like you said, just upgrades of current features or fixes, right? Basically, a lot of it is focused on like speeding up the home, right? Making sure you have a good browsing experience within HEOS, the HEOS app. Making sure certain things like USB time seek. So if you have good chunk of music on a USB stick, and each one of these functions as its own little server, right? So you can pop in there and you have a pleasant now playing or experience playing music on HEOS, right? So so yeah, things like the time seek should be working better. Larger queues, right?
Let's talk about the queues, because that was
absolutely.
something that somebody had brought up in IC. So let's talk about what's the, like, how did you increase the queue? So, because it was like a limited amount of tracks, right?
Yeah, so it was 300. So for example, if I had a title playlist, right, and I'm like, oh, I want to add all these songs to the HEOS queue, which is basically just like a giant queue in the speaker, right? And I want to listen to this in order, and say the playlist is like 700 songs. Well, we had a limit of 300 at one point, and with U36 now it's 1,000. So that can be up to 1,000 songs. And the cool thing is, multiple people can be adding all sorts of stuff to the queue. So if all three of us were on the same network, we would be, this is kind of like a jukebox at this point, right?
Right.
We're all just throwing tracks
Add
in or
my
whatever,
music.
up to 1,000, which is pretty nice. It's a lot of.
All right. So what are some other ones? I'm looking at the bullets on
Oh,
the.
yeah. Yeah,
on,
sure.
So let's go through each one of those bullets because some of them they sound very technical. SMP, SMB,
Yeah, SMB.
3.0, and all
Yeah.
this type of stuff. So let's go through and talk about what those are and what are the benefits to a user.
Yeah, like we were talking about a little bit before with the USB time seek. So if you have a little thumb drive of music, these can act as music servers. But some people don't like a little thumb drive; they want a whole server.
They want
right?
to. We're actually Nick's sitting on the floor over here, and we're building a NAS drive full of content.
There you go.
So,
you guys know, absolutely know. And so if you want a big server, there's basically server versions. Well, I'm simplifying a lot, but you want to be up there. The bigger the number, the more you can support. And the 1.0 we had previously supported just really wasn't up to snuff for a lot of people anymore. So 3.0 will basically support a lot more.
Yeah. So if
of
you want
modern
to,
servers.
if you want to access your personal library from the network, you can access a bigger library quicker.
Absolutely. So straight from the HEOS app, if you have one of these servers added, you can go to media server. I think is in the tile there. So I don't know if we actually have it. I'll try to pull it up here.
Yeah. There's if you go back to home, there should be down at the bottom. You have all of your different things there.
That's right.
So we actually, for trade shows or a lot of events, we actually use the USB functionality.
Yeah.
So we'll take a USB, plug a USB into one of the devices that are in the room, and then that becomes kind of the server for the rest of the demo spaces, and we can actually go in and quickly play stuff. So
okay.
And I like the fact it actually goes through and explains what the how to do it. So that's actually a pretty cool thing.
That's right. So I don't think we have one set up.
No,
in
we
the
don't have a
office.
server set up
Right.
yet.
Got it.
But if I stuck a USB into the back of the unit, it would come up under the USB.
That's absolutely right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's continue on. Let's talk about a few other things. What are some of the other what were some of the other ones that were on there? So there was the
So QPlay. This is a service that's mostly used in China. So many people, I mean myself included, are not as familiar with a lot of the music streaming apps that are in China. But basically, this is increasing their support. So again, like upgrading, because they've had several versions of the app, launched at this point. So QPlay is kind of like their Connect, right? Spotify Connect or whatever Connect, Tidal Connect. It's their version of that. So we're just upgrading, making sure your HEOS built-in speakers can play nicely with that QPlay app. So it's QQ Music, I think, is the service, but QPlay is what they call the Connect. So yeah, making sure it works for everyone in those regions.
I think the other thing they mentioned was you worked on the speed of when you first open the app, it opens up faster. It's more responsive. Is that something that you worked on as well?
Yeah, that's right. So just little tweaks. We're trying to still get it right, still get it better. And sometimes if you're just downloading it, you might notice like some intro screens where it's like trying to tell you about these new features. And every feature we talked about here, where you can go in the HEOS app, there's either a tips article or a what's new article that you can kind of read more about. But yeah, generally the app is trying to get faster and faster, right? We're also trying to optimize for that stuff. So yeah, we definitely made some upgrades for that to the homepage specifically, right? So if things aren't loading, you're just home screen will still load what it can load, right? Instead of waiting for everything and get bottlenecked at certain things. So that's definitely part of U36 as well. And the U36.1, which will happen soon. There's a lot of exciting stuff, but hopefully we can talk about that next time.
You want to keep your job. You don't want to you don't want to spill the beans, right?
Yeah.
So there are some cool things that but U36 just happened a couple of days ago. So that's one of the reasons why we actually wanted to have this, to kind of just show people that we continue to work on improving the capabilities of the service. No streaming app is perfect, people. But the goal is, I know Cam's like, what?
Oh
What?
my.
But no streaming service is perfect. So the goal is to, like we talked about it, constantly improve it and evolve it. And that's one of those things that I want to have AJ come and show that we're working on it, and we're listening to you, and they see all of the chats and the comments and things like that, and they're working to improve it. And if you look at the actual ratings now in like the Apple Store and stuff like that, the ratings are very, very good now, and you can see that people are starting to appreciate your hard work, so that's kind of a nice thing.
Yeah.
So actually, what else would I like to talk about now? So we talked about most of the U36.
Yeah.
I do have a couple of things that I do want to point out to people. Let's talk about just operation now. Unless there's any questions out there, Frederick, I just want to make sure that Nick Andrade turned on the chat, because I haven't seen anybody say anything.
No, we do. We do. So someone's asking, where can I find the owner's manual for HEOS? We have owner's manuals for all the devices, for all the products, but not for HEOS. But I do recall that we have on our YouTube trading channel, we do put up the tutorials. Yes. So that does make a difference, right? But is there an actual user manual for HEOS as the app?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if it's official, but there are a bunch of what we call tips, right? And those
so
are located
FAQ, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
for free. So, yeah, as long as you have access to the app, you can access these tips, and these will cover everything from, what we were just talking about, features, how to use, your connect features, your title connects, all the way to how do I, create a server or something like that, right? So, so there is a wealth of information in there, and I believe it's under settings. I mean, I can show you right now, actually. So if we just go here, we're on the home screen, and we go up to settings here, and we're going to go to tips for HEOS. So that last one right there, and we can see a bunch of categories here. So everywhere from HEOS app, voice assistants, AV receiver, the category breakdown, we can go into any one of these and see, here's music services and a troubleshooting, app appearance. So there's a lot of stuff to learn in here. And while I don't think there's this is regarded as the manual, I sort of see it as that.
But the app evolves so fast that if you made a manual, you'd be on your 35th version, 36th version.
Yeah.
But I will say that
outdate itself
real
quick.
So one of the things that I do want to point out, and Nick Andrade, who is producer Nick, who's hiding over here in the corner, has been working to put together with AJ short little tutorials that Frederick mentioned. So if you on the YouTube channel right now, you'll see that there's a playlist, and that playlist has I think we're up to like 14 or 15 common ones. How do you group? How do you pair a sub? How do you do stereo pairing? How do I add a den and home? All of those different things. And we're continuing to add that catalog, because it's really, and most of them are designed to be only a minute. So if you're trying to figure out something, you can go directly to the YouTube channel, go to that playlist, and you can probably look through those videos. And we're looking at ways of adding them, maybe as accessing them directly through the app, and even on a landing page somewhere, because a lot of times it's a lot easier to watch it on a 1-minute video than it is to try to read it. It's a little easier for a lot of people to comprehend. So we're working on, as we add these new features, showing you how to do them. So Nick just did one on group preset, because that was a newer feature. So I want to show people how to utilize it. So you don't have to remember how AJ walked us through. You could look at Nick's tutorial of it. And then I think Nick just sent me one for AirPlay, because that's another one. How do I utilize HEOS with an Apple device? And AirPlay 2 seems to be the most popular way to do it. And that video is coming soon.
Yeah, and there's also an FAQ online, I suppose.
Yes.
If you go to support.denon.com, you have the online FAQ for all the questions, but there is also a option within the app. When you click help, you get a lot of valuable, what's wrong with my network system. Maybe you can walk us a little bit through the help in the next section.
Yeah. So, and actually Mike's in the background. Well, if he has a question, we'll bring him up after this. But what happens is we have Mike Zanian, he deals with the networking side of stuff. So a little later, we'll talk on, for tips and tricks on how to make sure that as you build these robust systems, what's the best way to make sure your network is good to go. So let's go into the settings and
Yeah,
say,
sure.
this is one of the things that I like most
Go
about
ahead,
this
Phil.
application is the fact that if you could see how well your network is performing, so you can determine, is it the app that's causing problems, or is it time for me to get a new mesh object for my particular home. So this is actually in the help section, right?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going to back out for context. So yeah, we're in the home. Settings is always accessed through the home here. So
Mhm.
on the home tab, we tap that little settings cog up there. And now the stuff that's going to help you most is either section right here. And so we have all the stuff that Michael Magzanian is very familiar. But
So
yeah,
let's go to check my system.
yeah.
So and then let's look. Because what I'm looking at is the network status. So click on that
Oh,
one.
network status. Yeah. So,
Yeah. So what's nice about this
Mhm.
is Cam and I just did a house in
Vail, Arizona.
which is, it sounds more exotic than what it is. It's a beautiful house, but it's about what, 10 mile. I mean, there was no satellite. It was
About 50 cactuses past the
nice.
T intersection.
beautiful house. Beautiful house. They just redid it. And one of the things that we noticed about the house was was like adobe. So the walls were like 3 foot thick, basically compacted mud. So Wi-Fi doesn't want to go through those walls,
No
right?
signals getting in.
Yeah. So Cam was challenged with putting in a Denon Home system in the office. It was like a military makeover type thing. But how do you know if is it going to connect? So if you look at this screen here, I can see the entire building, and and based on if it's a wireless. So if you look at the one that says excellent, that tells me that in Nick's office, which is upstairs, that the wireless is excellent, right?
Mhm.
But you'll notice that in order to support reliably all of these zones, a lot of them say wired. So you can use a very good wireless network, but I may have to have Mike jump on a different call with me, and we'll go through all of the things about UPnP and the different types of routers that you need to support more massive solutions. But the nice thing about this is you can go in and you can do diagnostics. So if it's not working very good in your bedroom, you could check your signal and say, oh, the signal in the bedroom is not very good. Maybe I need to
Right.
move the speaker or figure out or move my router to get better coverage. So that's kind of a nice thing. So
That's right.
so let's talk about a couple other things that I thought were kind of interesting.
Sure.
If you go back now to I'm not sure if we have I'm not sure we have an AVR on this one because we used to.
I think it's on a
Yeah.
different.
So
Oh, I'm
let's.
sorry.
So
Yep, there will be.
if we have an AVR, if we have a AVR
Okay.
connected to a I was thinking
No,
about
I'm sorry,
playing
it's
music,
not.
playing
It's
back
not.
if I'm playing something on my AVR and I want to play it in another room.
Using the inputs
Yeah,
or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So actually,
It's
if you go back to the home menu, there's a couple things that I want to point out. So go back to the home menu and you go down to those inputs,
Yeah.
all the way down at the bottom. You'll see there that you have all of the inputs. You have like USB, server, all those things, right?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So the inputs that you see are all of the inputs for an audio device. So if I want to play a turntable, I can plug a turntable into a hi-fi piece in a second zone, and then I could play that and stream that throughout the entire house. The one that I will point out that you may not see on here is if you have an AVR. The AVR has so many inputs that if there was an AVR on this particular system right now, you would see the AVR would actually have inside of inputs, it would have another one that has all the
AV tiles.
AVR inputs,
Yeah.
HDMI 1, HDMI 2, and stuff like that. So those don't live under the input tab. So
That's right. Just a note on the input tab, but you can still so for example, we've got our Denon Home 250 here selected as the current room. So if we go to the inputs, it's just basically going to show all of the inputs that are available on every speaker on this network,
Which is a
or
lot.
zone. Yeah, excuse me, which is a lot, right? So you could select, hey, here's this coax in from, second floor lounge headphones. If you've got something in that coax in, you could stream it, right? You could restream it to your Denenhome 250, right? And that's really the power and leverage you can do with the system. So that's pretty nice. But yeah, with an AVR, unfortunately, we don't have one on the network yet.
But actually, we have
It's on our other network.
We have a HEOS drive on here, right? Or an M4, don't we? I think we do.
Yeah, M4.
There's a M1.
Go to the
Isn't one of these?
go to devices. The quickest way is the big thing about this system is we have a couple of devices that are basically multiple HEOS systems in one location, right? So if you go to the one that says Super Drive, or just go back all the way to my devices, you see it says Super Drive. If I click Super Drive number 1.
Oh yeah.
So Super Drive number 1 is actually 4 zones.
That's right.
Right. So that'd be something like if you went out and bought a Denon drive. Actually, is this called a Super Drive?
Superlink.
Superlink, or an
M4.
or an M4.
Yep.
That an M4 acts like it is 4 different.
Completely different zones.
Completely different zones. So in here, this is how we end up with so many zones. Is we don't have that one box is 4 zones, and we have 8. We have like 8 of those boxes in the building, and that's how we get so many zones.
That's right.
So it's not like a whole bunch of. We could have done it with 30 M4s or M1s, but it's a lot easier to do it with several M4s just for a cleaner installation. We actually, the house that we did in Phoenix, actually in Tucson, Cam got to pull a whole lot of wire around the backyard. And what we did was we used an M4 to drive multiple zones in his backyard, and actually one's going to go in his garage. And that was the quickest way to add multiple zones in the home. So now let's actually, while we're in that app, depending on the type of device that's the type of HEOS device, when you go into some of the settings, they're different, right? So so let's go into, if we have a 250, let's go into like something like an M1. I think there's an M1.
Yeah, there's definitely an M1 there. There you go.
So depending on the device that you have,
It's in his office.
there's going to be other things that you can do with that device. So for example, this one has the ability for like wired subwoofers and other things, because if you look at the back, if Cam, lovely Cam is our hand model. If I turn if I turn an M4, an M1 around, you actually will have subwoofer output. You can't see it, but there's actually subwoofer outputs on that sucker, on the back. So if you want to add a powered sub or a in a wired sub, a wireless sub, you can do that. And then because it's an this device actually has crossover settings and all sorts of stuff, because that device is designed to be a hi-fi piece. But if I look at something like a Denenhome 250,
I'm not picking that.
the Denenhome 250 isn't going there. We're not going to pick. You ain't going to pick that up, right? You're not going to see crossover settings and things like that for that device, because that's not really for that application. If you go to something like this piece here, pick it up. You'll see that you have that this one actually has zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. So you can actually, if you wanted to, have your main room playing your surround sound and use the HEOS for your second zone. So it all depends on the device that you're utilizing.
Absolutely.
It's going to be different. And actually, if you go into go into Phil's office, that way,
there we go.
if we start screwing it up, you can go all the way back to go back to the main page,
Yeah.
and then go to my room.
Oh, you want to select it?
Yeah, go all the way to go select my room.
Yeah.
Okay, so Phil's office is what it should be called. Phil's office. Oh my God, there's so many things in here.
I know.
Okay, there we go. Phil's office.
Isn't it M1?
I always
There
have to
it
make
is,
sure
bam.
that I don't start rocking out my boss's office. He gets a little mad.
Right.
Now, if I go down to the settings, so go into the settings
Yep.
of down in there. That's like the ones below, like here. down in there, like the bass and treble and all that type of stuff.
Oh yeah.
So,
There you go.
and if you, so if I bring that in, you know, there's your sub levels for that room, your balance and your volume for that room. It has digital filters, so if you want to go in here and change the filter to determine how it sounds, you can make those adjustments. If this was something like a Marantz Horizon, you would have a different combination of capabilities there. So that's where you would go in and make all of those particular adjustments. So I have a sub in my office too, because why not? And I can actually turn the sub up and down, you know, in that space. So it also, so there is a lot of capabilities in this.
That's a great point, and something we maybe didn't touch on so much going through the U releases that we've done since U32 is basically like every new product that's launched, we have to go through and basically make sure that it works with the HEOS app as well, right? So we're seeing all the speakers here, we have to go through and make sure all these settings are just right, and supported, right? So every speaker or every device is a little bit different. We had many new, great products launch as well. So those also need to be.
Well, that goes back to that conversation about gradual. Right?
Yeah.
Because if you come up with a new device, like we have a thing called the Marantz Horizon, it's a very high performance single speaker solution. And when you get into the Horizon, it has a lot of additional capabilities that are only found on a Horizon or a Grand Horizon.
That's right.
Well, to add those features to the app, you have to make sure that you add those features without breaking something else. And let's be honest, if I use the Sonos word, they added some features and it impacted the whole everything else. So we do have to be really careful and cautious about adding applications. And that's the reason why we can't just throw Apple YouTube Music up in like 2 weeks, because it's not as easy as that. There's a lot of engineering, because we're talking about hundreds of devices in millions of homes, and we want to make sure that when we add something like a Horizon and a new feature for the Horizon, we don't break your Denon home speaker.
That's right, and a lot of different countries as well. There's.
Oh, I didn't even think about all the different countries, all the different regions, all the different services that are in those countries that are not in America. You know, all of that has to work before you pull the trigger. Because if it goes down, everybody's gonna know, right?
That's absolutely right.
So,
have you already talked about these already, or
actually, we're gonna do another webinar on those, but let's talk a little bit about that. So this is actually a great example of, you could bring that slide back, the picture of the Horizon back up.
Sure.
This is a great example of a product to that solves a different need. So we have great AVRs, we have great hi-fi pieces, but sometimes you want the performance of a hi-fi piece, but you don't want it to look like a hi-fi piece, or you don't even know what hi-fi is. You just want something that sounds good. So the Horizon does a really good job of, it's just a beautiful thing that makes beautiful music, right? For that person who's looking for that. Then, if you're someone that already has a nice hi-fi system, you may want, you have a level of expectation when it comes to how things should sound, but maybe you want something that has that quality in your living room or your office or your dining room, and you're not allowed, because I tried to put 2 or 3 more black boxes and another pair of black speakers in the room, and she just was not having it. That's what the Horizon comes in. It gives me as close to a hi-fi experience in that room. So there's people who will never buy a hi-fi system that'll love a Horizon, and then there's people who already have a hi-fi system that still want a Horizon.
Yeah.
So and our tie-in for HEOS is a little bit different with this, because it has My Mirage.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
The tuning is opened up. So we were just adjusting, the bass and treble on your M1 and your office, Phil, just a few moments ago. But these products really open up that. You can really tweak what sort of sounds are coming out of that speaker.
Is there a Horizon on this network?
I
Yes.
thought I saw one.
There
so
is.
let's try to open.
Cam should know. Cam
Yes,
knows the
there
network.
is.
There you go. Cam's in here a lot.
I
There
can't
we go.
remember whose office it is, but
Well,
there
Who
is.
cares?
So
We
someone's gonna wake
well,
up and-
everybody's
Yeah.
asleep, so everybody's awake. So if you hit the thing, it comes up with a whole nother one called sound modes. So that's an example of things being different depending on
Yeah.
the device that you
It's
have.
totally different for that, for
That's-
the Horizon and the Grand Horizon.
That's right. So here we've got, sound mode. We've just got the regular volume. And to get there, we open the now playing screen, and then we go down to this little tab with the switches on it, which gives us all these sound options. So hitting sound mode, we got auto, sound master, and my Mirage. And Cam, you were just talking about my Mirage. So so now that we're in my Mirage, we can kind of get to this the level of depth, right? You can adjust these speakers at, which is truly amazing. And if you want to hear it, you turn on the soundscape. So somewhere in the office,
Somewhere-
The president
speaker's
of the
making
company
noise.
is jamming out in his office right
sorry, this might be the last appearance for me. But so soundscape, it's playing, so you can actually hear what it's adjusting. You don't have to be playing a track or anything like that.
Make
And-
sure you turn that off before you
Yeah,
leave.
sorry. I'm like, yeah, it's just like freaking out on a meeting. Hopefully not. Yeah, and so we have these are given labels, but they are affecting. I mean, all the technical.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
audio.
warmth is kind of the bottom end. The spaciousness is the high frequency.
Exactly.
So it's just an easier way of doing it. And it makes a big difference. And then there's almost like there's sound presets based on like there's a sound master, there's an automatic. There's a lot of
Yeah.
capabilities.
If you pull that one back
Oh,
up
sorry,
real
go.
quick.
Yeah. Here,
So
Cam, go for it.
what I like about this, if you could read the screen,
Oh yeah.
you don't have to know what you're adjusting because it tells you what you're adjusting. If you read out the bottom, it tells you it's primarily affecting the base and positive values at depth and richness, negative values subtract from it. So you don't have to be technical and know how to do equalizing. It tells you what it's doing, and then as you move that slider back and forth, you can hear what it's doing. And if you have that speaker in front of you, it gives you also visual cues. If you have this speaker in front of you, as you slide it around, it gets more brown and golden, adding depth. Visually, it shows you it's doing that. And then as you slide it back to the left, it goes from golden brown to blue, telling you, hey, it's getting cooler. It's taking away the depth of the bottom end. So it's really cool that it shows you what it's doing visually and audibly. So it's a really cool system. So you don't have to be technical or anything like that to be able to adjust the music to sound the way that you want it to sound. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and the performance is really, really good. So we were talking about as we go through. The one thing that we also want to stress when it comes to HEOS is the quality of the sound, right? Back in the days when you had streaming services, you used to have to choose between performance and convenience, and now you do not. Internet service, your most people's internet is quite fast. So whether it's a bunch of ones and zeros on a disk that a laser's reading, a laser is reading, or it's ones and zeros on your network, or it's ones and zeros that come from the cloud, it's still the same ones and zeros. So you don't, and now the networks are fast enough that you could easily stream, for HD high res at 4K at 192.24 or above CD. So if you look at services like Tidal and now even Spotify and Amazon Music, they all have higher than CD quality. So there is no, which is why in most of our all of our demonstrations, except for we want to play somebody wants to play a turntable, we do pretty much all of our digital demonstrations utilizing HEOS. I don't care what the price points are. We have a full set of Nautilus here they're spectacular, and the demo is off of HEOS. So that just shows you the quality of the service. And if you want to do it in 64 zones, Mike Benzanian will tell you, just make sure you have a robust Wi-Fi network or you run wires and you will be good to go. Okay. So that's something that else we want to talk about. Hey, Frederick, is there anything else that we should discuss?
Yes, just a couple of things that came in. We spoke about the Horizon. Somebody's asking if the option of saving the volume levels of individual speakers as a preset, is that on the Horizon?
Ooh, that's a good one.
You know, I will have to get back to that, but
That's a good one.
like so we have
So
oh,
basically, whenever you go back to the living room or like the kitchen, and I hit play in the kitchen, I know that it's always gonna like a default start volume would be
yeah.
great. So is that kind of what he's talking about, right, Frederick? Like a default start volume for
Yeah,
when it hits play. That would be nice.
Yeah.
I think so.
Another request for you, AJ.
Yeah, I know. Like, there you go. That's a great idea. I know in I believe how quick selects work on a Denham. So for example, this one here, there's 1, 2, 3,
Mhm.
and once you save a quick select, so you can be playing, I don't know, Pandora Station, save it. It'll save that. I believe that volume as well, but I'd have to check and get back to you on that. But that is a great idea for the
Mhm.
the people who have
Especially
the
for the
Harney-
Horizon.
they
I
have the
will. I
Horizon
can
and
give
stuff.
you a workaround on an AVR. You can go into a Marantz AVR and you can set a
Yeah, the
start
macro.
volume. So when it wakes up at that volume all the time. You can even set a max volume so you cannot exceed it, which is kind of a nice little thing that you can do with an AVR. But I can see how that could be a benefit on something like a Grand Horizon. When I
Yeah.
hit the button, it's always going
Yeah.
to kind of play at the volume I want. You know, that I could see that being a nice little say.
Yeah,
Hey, so guess
absolutely.
what? Add another great request to
Absolutely.
your list of things. All right, Fred, what was the other question that came up?
Yes, actually, I can confirm that this does work in retail mode because we also do CI custom install projects with the Horizon,
Mhm.
and we have a hotel project in Dubai somewhere. That is actually being confirmed. So you can, in the retail mode, set a specific source, a specific starting level,
Mhm.
a maximum level. So it's what we call retail or hotel mode.
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's funny, and that's another.
Retail mode.
Yeah, a lot of times the devices are used for either demonstrating in a store, and you have to have certain capabilities, if so, to ensure that it works 100% of the time in the store, or it's almost like a commercial mode where it sometimes is being utilized in commercial applications, and those demands are a little different than residential. So if you look at Horizon, it would be for someone who, like I said, wants to put beautiful music, be something beautiful that sounds beautiful, who doesn't know about all that stuff, great application. It could be for someone who, like we mentioned, I have a hi-fi system, but my wife won't let me have another set of black boxes. Cam, if he comes home with another set of black boxes, his wife will kill him. So, but he'll just put them in the garage. But come on with an Horizon, she'll probably let you put that in the living room, right? And then the last application, I was thinking it almost like think of it as luxury commercial. So you have this beautiful hotel, you have the lobby, you have this beautiful like a day, like a spa, a high-end restaurant where you still want a beautiful sound for passive listening, but at the same time, there's multiples, and you want to make sure everything's synced together, and that's where we get into retail and commercial modes.
Yeah.
So
Also think of
Gotcha.
that the office case where we're mucking around here adjusting sound volumes, and someone wakes up in the morning and just goes to play their favorite. Like there's your alarm clock, but and just have a reset in the
yeah.
morning.
Hopefully, you weren't playing with the Grand Horizon volume, so when someone
I
comes on,
should go
it's
check
played
it
them.
after this.
Those at a low volume, so we're good.
Yeah.
Those only at 23.
Oh, it's Cam's noticing. All
Yeah,
right,
no, I was looking. We was only at 23. We're fine.
Okay, so
Retail mode. Okay.
yeah,
See,
retail.
I'm learning stuff.
Okay, so what else, Frederick? Anything else?
Yes, something that we get a lot is customers calling us or sending us emails. I have a Tidal account. I live in, let's say, Korea, and I want to add Tidal to the HEOS app, but I can't see it. So that's a matter of a locale. So very often your HEOS account is tied to a locale.
Mhm.
And in there, you can change it. For example, what we do in APAC is often suggesting to the customers, change your locale to Australia. And in that case, you will be able to see all the music services or more that you're looking for. If you're in China, you're going to see QQ Music. You're not going to see Tidal.
Mhm.
So it's a matter of changing the locale.
Yeah, location. And actually, Nick is using that. Andrade is using that to do languages. So we're doing those tutorials that we talked about in up to 6 different languages. So what he can do is go, and we talked to AJ. AJ, how do I go in and convert all of these to German? You know, so we could do the same tutorials over. And he said, yeah, you just go in and change the location to Germany, and then all of a sudden the menu, you have to change your phone to Germany, and then once you
Yeah.
change your phone to Germany, the HEOS app comes up in German. Just make sure that you know how to get it out, because if you don't speak German, you know, you'll
Yeah.
be stuck.
Oh.
Or if you want to see the services available in Germany, you'd go to your your HEOS account here
Mhm.
up in the settings,
Uh-huh.
and then you change your change location, right?
Right
So
there,
here we're in
German?
US, so we'd see all the United services associated with Frederick. That's what
That's
we're
how he
doing.
does it, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
So yeah, you'd go ahead and change it to maybe another location. So you'd you'd kind of get what services you need. You know, for example, you use Korea, so you might want to switch to Australia because they have Tidal, they support Tidal there. So you could do that there. But right now we're set for
Americas.
yeah. You know,
Yeah.
States,
There's
there you
one
go.
caveat though. This you may need to use VPN in some cases for it to show up. So some countries may have geofencing where it doesn't pop up at all. So using
Totally.
VPN is the alternative.
Yeah, and basically on this call, we'll probably have some West Coasters, we have some East Coasters, but we also have a lot of people from the APAC. 'Cause this is like morning. This is kind of morning afternoon time for them. So
Happy Friday.
yeah, happy Friday. I know. Okay, so we talked about the new features on the updates. We've talked about some things like group preset. We talked about where you could find tutorials that are built in, where you can get them from the site. Talked about that there's different versions of the app based on the device that you have,
Hmm.
and then we even talked about how to find different services based on your location. What else could we talk about?
Probably a feature that maybe some uh, people who've been using HEOS for a long time probably popped up on the radar, but maybe not people who haven't been using HEOS is just a fact that it's mandatory to create a HEOS account to use the app now.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So that it's happened a few pretty recently. So and for a number of reasons, like you know, obviously it hasn't been required for a long time, so you could use HEOS without it, but without a HEOS account. But there's certain things like security. After a while, we have to secure certain things, and there's obviously business reasons before that as well. If you want to provide better content or better services to people, it's worth having an account so you can associate certain things with how people are using the app, for example. So that I think is a big change for someone who's been using it for years and years and years and years. And we understand that's a painful thing to make you sign up and things like that, but assure you there's some good things coming soon with what you're going to get. So yeah.
So let me see. So Frederick, I like Frederick here. Yes. He's hot. Okay. We're still learning how to make sure so Frederick can manually pop in whenever he wants to. So so we've anything else or any other questions that are on there? I'm actually looking at the questions now so I can see. I am shocked. Normally people are asking a million questions. Oh, someone a little unclear on how HEOS and Roon work together. Can you elaborate further or show us something? Does Roon show up in the HEOS app? So I can tackle a little bit of that.
Sure.
Okay, so the way that it works is you would have to go to Roon.com. Roon.com has their own software program. And originally, HEOS devices for the last few years were Roon tested, which meant that if you went out and you went to Roon.com and you bought the Roon app is more of a, think of it almost like a interactive music magazine. So we have worked hard to make HEOS better for someone who wants to discover music. Originally, like before we made this last visual update, if you knew what you were looking for, you could quickly go find what you were looking for. I want to hear Bob Dylan at this record here. No problem. HEOS was done for that. The problem was when you woke up on a Saturday and you just wanted to hear music and you wanted to be inspired. What should I play? Make some recommendations. Help me decide. That was not something that the old HEOS app was very good at. So we've made changes to that. So now it makes recommendations of new albums and things like that. It makes it easier for you to find music, not just remote. We can do a lot of it. What Roon does is Roon not only gives you those types of things, but if you want to read an article about the drummer that played on Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon, you could read a whole article about that. And then if you want to, it'll say, would you like to hear, here's all the other records that this artist actually played on. So it allows you to kind of explore deeper into the music, the artist, the player. So it's a lot more interactive. A lot of times people utilize it on a laptop. HEOS is more of a mobile device, but Roon can be utilized on a laptop or a PC. So once you decide that you want to play a song using the Roon service, so you'd have to go to roon.com. We'll make sure in the description that we actually put that in. Then once you set that service up, and you say, I want to hear this song in this speaker, now we're Roon, depending on the device, we are Roon ready, which means you get the highest resolution, high version of that track that is available on Roon now. And before it was done through Apple AirPlay. So now it's done through the full Roon service. The nice thing is you can mix and match. You can have one of our products. I don't know why you want somebody else's, but you can use a different brand. You can have another brand in that system. So it's more about how you interact. So Roon is not in the HEOS app. HEOS devices are now in the Roon service. Would be
Okay.
the best way to think of it.
There's one place you can go in the HEOS app and actually control, and that's what really also the HEOS support means is basically if you want basic transport control like play, pause, fast forward, skip track, previous track, volume, those things are still accessible in the HEOS app. So again, like I like the way you described it, Phil, is if you want that immersive experience, you might be controlling stuff on your desktop. If you just need quick controls, you might just pull out your phone and you might use HEOS to kind of switch back and forth and get through tracks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
On that.
So hopefully that helps you out. And then Fred Barry, we already talked about the fact that there's the quickest way to, if you have any Denon or Marantz AVR or something like that, download the HEOS app. If you want to go through and see the features, that help thing will show you all the features. Or of course, as we mentioned, you could check out our list of HEOS playlist, which really kind of shows the most commonly used HEOS features. So I'm looking else. What else is in the chat there?
Somebody asking about calibrating Denon's new home amp or the M1 for that matter with Odyssey or Dirac in a future update. Feature requests.
So it's interesting when it comes to stereo pieces like the Denon home app. Back in the days, people only, if I said digital room compensation or room correction for a hi-fi piece or a stereo piece, they would run away. Oh, no, don't mess with my hi-fi. And then based on the performance that were available, that you've gotten from the multi-channel pieces, we're getting more and more requests for those types of capabilities. We know that. That's as far as I'm going to go. And I know that's one of those things that's on AJ's bucket list to get to happen, because people can see a benefit of being able to actually use digital room compensation on hi-fi pieces or stereo pieces to deal with rooms that you want to play music in that are not the very best when it comes to setup.
Yeah.
So they know that, and that's as far as I'm going to go. So stand by.
I'll say this: it's high up on the list.
It's high up on the list.
That's what I will say.
Yeah, it's a popular request.
So Kit clarified regarding the volume presets. He was asking if it's possible to set that in the HEOS app itself. So no retail mode or anything like that. Any HEOS device, is there a way to set the preset default volume
I don't.
in the HEOS app?
Going back to that question, I don't know. I will, we'll
Yeah.
look it up and get back to the chat.
But that's one of those things that we talk about because Kit actually brought that up. That's actually we hadn't even thought about that, or I hadn't. That when you brought that up, the light bulb came on and said I could totally see why that happens. A lot of the requests that we get from users, I just want we actually utilize that information, and that may be something that we we could see a benefit to that. So right now it may not be available, but it does not mean that in the future that's not something that cannot be added.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
but we have something similar on the AVRs as well, right? But that's then stored in the device itself, where you can set, as soon as you switch it on from standby mode, that's the default volume. So something similar in those lines, perhaps.
that's right.
Yeah. And thanks, Mark. He said he loves his he's a fan of Denon Home amp. I was when we first got our Denon Home amps and M1s, we connected up to some really large hi-fi speakers, and we were shocked at the performance that came from these pieces. So we like to say, if you look at a Denon Home amp or an M1, it is a compact hi-fi amplifier that happens to have wireless streaming, and that's one of the things that we like most about those particular devices. Oh, the other thing too that I really like about this whole HEOS thing that we've been talking about, because we use the same, that app works on a huge amount of devices. You could have an older receiver, 2-3 years old. You could have bought your Denon Home speaker 2-3 years ago. All of the functionality we talked about when it comes to U34, U35, U36, Roon Ready, all of that stuff you get. So as the nice thing is, your system's capabilities continue to evolve as the app evolves.
That's right.
Guess what? If we add some crazy new music service to the HEOS, your 3-year-old Denon AVR now has access to that service. Your Stereo 70 Marantz has access to that service. Your Denon Home 250 now has access to this service. So having one app rule them all is a great benefit. And it's the same. If I had a picture of the HEOS board, it's the same board that you would find in this AVR, in that Marantz M1, and in that Denon Home 250. There isn't a good HEOS board and a okay HEOS board. It's the same board, which is why we can guarantee quality. And if it's going to sound good in a $10,000 Marantz Link 10 network player, it's probably going to do a pretty good job in your Denon Home 250.
That's right.
All right. So I do like those two things. There is no good, better, best when it comes to HEOS functionality or the HEOS boards and things like that.
Yeah. You really want them to sound good across whatever you're playing on, right? All together, whether playing individually or all together as a group. So.
Exactly. So Mark says he has 2 Denon Home amps, which is why we made something like a Marantz M4, because we find out that people keep buying them, and eventually you get to the point where you have 4 of them, and now you can get one solution that has basically 4 M1s in one container. So let's go look here. Let's look through here. It's fun
Yeah,
to be
Fred
able to
Berry
look
has a
at
question.
at the same time.
So Fred Berry has a troubleshooting question. I just upgraded my HEOS app, and it seems not to be able to find my account, even though I have it saved under my fingerprint recognition. Is it trying to force me to create a new password?
Ooh, so I guess it depends. This sounds like a OS question, and like, outside of maybe HEOS's, going back to like, are you on Android, iOS, and troubleshooting?
So actually, Mike,
Yeah.
are you there? You can unmute yourself. Have you ever experienced this? So Mike Manzanian, who's kind of hiding in the wings, he does a lot of our custom, our dealing with HEOS solutions. I'm not sure if his mic is working. Mike, are you there?
I'm here. Hi, guys.
Okay. So have you had that experience before in the past?
Where the account is no longer being recognized.
Mm-hmm.
I would start with a password reset to see if it's actually still exists, and it should not disappear from this planet unless something bad happened. But if somehow it got deleted, you can just go ahead and use the same email address and create a new password for the account.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, you're going to lose your playlists and favorites.
Yeah. So hopefully, Fred, this is the first time that's ever happened, and it'll be the last time it ever happens. Because, like I said, we've had 35 upgrades that you may not have known about. It's just one of them for some reason did that, and I'm not exactly sure why.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that.
So so
Yeah,
Mike,
this-
since you're here,
Yep.
if so, I remember we used to always do videos and we talk about wireless. So, what are some quick tips for someone who like when they're thinking about maybe trying to build a bigger HEOS system that is wireless that you would tell people to maybe help them a little out and maybe reduce headaches? Is there any top tips that you could share?
Sure. So, of course, the ISP provides you with like a free router, right? But
Mhm.
that free router is not the greatest equipment. It's more budget. So, I mean, it may or may not work. So, but as you build on the system, you want to get more of a robust network. So, look for store-bought brands and more uh, dealer friendly routers. I mean, Eero is a great brand for mesh,
Mhm.
and you can expand upon it. But there's also Luxel and Ubiquiti, and all of these routers. Pretty much all routers work with HEOS. There's no router that does not work with HEOS that I've come across. Besides budget equipment that the ISP provider will give you for free, or make you pay $10 a month for. Um, so you want to steer away from those budget routers because you may be able to set up like one or two devices, but as you expand upon your system, you're going to run into problems. There might be some issues with delay. So in those cases, you just want to get away from those routers, put in your own equipment.
Mhm.
Another thing is with the technology, our products use UPnP and multicast.
Mhm.
So you always want to make sure UPnP is enabled on the router, or else you may not have a good control experience.
Mhm.
So if
So
like the volume is laggy, or if you try to group something and it fails, you want to look at the setting for UPnP.
okay, yeah, because I've noticed that too. Like if you're playing it, and all of a sudden you hit the volume, like in the house that we did the house in Tucson.
Oh.
The first time we turned the volume up, it took like 5 seconds, and it went up. That means that's most likely that setting on the router was not set, so we went into the router and made that adjustment. The other thing too is if you need coverage, mesh networks, right? Not Mike, not
Not
Wi-Fi
extenders.
extenders, right?
Right. Extenders are a no-no. They cut they cut the bandwidth in half at best. So, and most people don't put extenders in between the furthest device. They put it in the same room as the furthest device, and it's not doing anything. Actually, it makes it worse. So,
Okay. Yeah, so it seems like mesh networks are seeming to be the way. If you want more coverage, you buy another puck, and that's probably the best way to add
yeah,
the mesh
expand onto
network.
the network.
Yeah.
Right.
So top tips from Mike: if they give you a router, don't use it. If they give you a modem/router, switch it to modem mode and go get yourself a router, right? If you need more range, do not use a Wi-Fi extender. Get a mesh network or access points, like wired access points. You'll have a much better experience, not only for you're playing back streaming music through HEOS, but also if your kid wants to watch Pokemon on his iPad in the back of the house, you're going to have a much better experience with those particular tips. All right. So if it's going to make your Netflix look better on your iPad in the back of the house, it's probably going to make your HEOS play better and function better in the back of in the farthest room in the house. So there's benefits. If you make a great HEOS network, you're also going to make a great just network.
Absolutely.
So that's a good one. All right, Mike, thanks. So and then last one. Any insights on Cobuzz? So adding Cobuzz to the list of streaming services. We gotta have Cobuzz. What's your comment on that?
It's also high up on the list. Any question you ask, it's high up on the list.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. Yeah, Cobuzz is actually very.
So Cobuzz is so there's a couple of services that we've heard big requests for.
Absolutely.
And as you can see, they're working their way through. And as he mentioned, Cobuzz is a big one. So I would just tell you to stand by because as he mentioned, there's we continue to add the updates, and once the update is done, all those updates are done and verified, we will jump back on here and tell you all of the cool new things. So we are throughout the rest of the year. That leads us to the end of this because we could talk about this forever. We're going to be doing these types of live streams for pretty much every other week for the rest of the year, and hopefully. AJ, you don't have to come to every single one. Don't worry about it.
Like,
but,
what?
but we will be bringing in experts like AJ and Mike, who's hiding on the phone, to assist Cam, Frederick, and myself in these particular webinars. Today or live streams. Today we were talking about HEOS. We have some additional webinars coming up, and I believe the next one is going to be on hi-fi, basically trying to build yourself a great hi-fi system on a budget. Because we get asked that a lot. I want to get into hi-fi, or what would you do if you only have maybe $1,500? And we have a lot of different options available for that. So on April 17th, we're going to be doing hi-fi systems on a budget. And I'm going to ask Frederick to come up with some ideas, and Cam to come up with some ideas, and then we'll talk about based on here are some scenarios to help you pick the hi-fi. We're also going to, on May 1st, talk a little bit more about high-performance wireless speakers. That is where we're going to really get into the Horizon, and I'm going to make Cam go through and show you the pretty lights and walk you through all the applications and things like that. Moving on to May 15th, we're going to start, we get a lot of questions about Durac. So we're going to talk a little bit about Durac capabilities, how do you utilize it, and just to make sure that you can better understand that particular service. And then May 22nd is going to be on Marantz AV separates. We're going to go back and revisit those topics. Those are just the ones that we have scheduled for April and May. Please make sure you like and subscribe to this YouTube channel so I can show my boss that this is a worthwhile endeavor. All right. And we will continue to make sure that we share the latest news as it goes along. So this was a conversation about reason why we did this one first, because U36 just happened and we wanted to talk about it. So please make sure that you continue to attend these particular webinars. If you have any additional questions, because you're watching this either as a recording, make sure you put those into the chat because we're actually monitoring that to make sure that we can answer those questions at a later date. Or if you have ideas for more live streams that you would like to have in June, July, August, October, November, all of those times, make sure you put those in because producer Nick can gather that information and then help schedule more of these webinars. So Cam and AJ, thank you for coming and hanging out with you with us. And Frederick, where are you, Frederick? Thank you for coming. Frederick's on vacation.
I'm here.
He's on vacation and he still showed up for this to help us out with the session. I really appreciate that. And Mike, hiding in the shadows, thank you for coming as well to answer some questions. So hopefully you got something from this session. And if not, I'm sorry. No, I'm just joking. But I think we did a good job. Hopefully you got some things, some tips and some tricks, and we will talk to you soon. So bye bye everybody.